Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Matty P, Shannon White here for another episode of the Steelers Global Perspective. We are reviewing the 3rd and 4th round picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2023 NFL Draft. That's quite a mouthful. In Darnell Washington and Nick Herbig. I can't wait to talk about these two blokes with you, Shannon, because I always think you've got an interesting perspective. That's why we do shows together. I love talking Steelers with you. And I think these two guys really brought something different for the Steelers last year. And I think with it's almost like the sky's the limit for these two guys. I don't think we've seen what we're fully going to see. So excited to get your opinions on all that and more. To refresh everyone's minds, Darnell Washington was drafted in the 3rd round. He had a draft day fall. People expected him to fall a little bit close to because of the knee issues. I'm sure, Shannon, you'll bring up your little insight around that knee issue and the Steelers, what they think of him long term. But they brought him out of Georgia. We talked to him about a little bit the benefit he provides and the chemistry he provides with Broderick Jones. And then they got Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. They doubled up and went to Wisconsin with Benton and picked Nick Herbig. His brother Nate had been singing his praises as well, Nate being the interior offensive lineman for the Steelers as well. So they picked Nick Herbig 132 overall, and that is starting to already look like a very, very high-value pick. But Shannon, which guy do you want to start with? Will we stay chronological and go Darnell, or do we want to flip the script and talk about Nick first?
I think we stay chronological.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's go Darnell. I'm going to give you my perspective on Darnell first. My perspective on Darnell, everyone keeps being really high. I was really high, I guess, going into the 2024 NFL draft on the Steelers getting potentially another receiving tight end or someone that could do a bit more of an all-rounder. And I know that I genuinely felt that the consensus feedback back to me was we've got Darnell. And I kind of took this route where, well, but hang on, Darnell hasn't really proved anything. The bloke had 10 targets, caught 7 of them, was barely used, literally had 61 yards on the season, 4 first downs. We can't, what can we take from that? That doesn't tell us anything about how we could be used in the receiving game. And I separate tight ends by the guys that can do both. And I call them, it's almost dual threat because it is a threat if you can block well. Or you can receive and you're a good catcher and you can block however good, however not. Or you're a really good blocking tight end. And blocking tight ends are very cheap and very easy to get. And you shouldn't really probably spend a 3rd round draft pick on it. Like that's a luxury pick, even if they're like the best blocker that's ever happened at tight end, right? That's a luxury. That's a luxury. So it's not that I'm not high on Darnell. I am, although long term, I think there's the thing that I'm not. I know you'll bring up, so I won't take that thunder. And I'm open to what he could be in 2024, particularly even in an Arthur Smith offense. But I don't want to grade him down because I don't think Matt Canada used Darnell in the right way. I don't even think they used Pat Freiermuth in the right way when Matt Canada was coordinated. You saw the difference when he was fired, and then look at how well Pat Freiermuth did against the Bengals because they kept doing these. They're almost rugby runs, to be honest, with what I was seeing, with the way they gave Pat Freiermuth the ball behind or just over the line of scrimmage, and then had to barrel over the first defensive back that met him between the line of scrimmage and the line of the first down. Like I just then you do this barrel over and have to take everyone on with an injury prone tight end like Pat Freiermuth. I'm standing there going, what are you doing? Like I don't understand it. But yeah, what's your take on Darnell and what his future could look like in 2024 for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, leading up to the draft, we all kept hearing maybe late first, early in the second, 6'7", 250 some, much faster than you would expect from a guy that size, incredible wingspan and catch radius. And he played for Georgia. And everybody's like, well, Georgia did not utilize him in the passing game. Nope. But they had Brock Bowers. So everybody's like, that's why. And they had these other talented receivers. And so they just capitalized on him for his blocking. Well, but the problem with that is we've seen he come in and he's very raw as a receiver. He's raw at running routes. it's not natural for him. He prefers to block. He prefers to be in there throwing bodies around and utilizing his size. So they got a raw prospect on the receiving side. He has good hands. We've seen that. We've seen some of the catches he can make. At the combine and preseason, but we didn't get to see much last year. But Matt Canada didn't utilize any of his talent correctly, and I'll leave it at that. But as a blocker, he was strong at the beginning of the year, and he had some really big pancake blocks. He planted Bosa in week 1. He planted him, and it was beautiful. But then as the year went on, again, which happens with rookies, some of their weaknesses start to, their warts start to show. And I think he got a little tired. And it was a much longer season than he had at Georgia. And going up against much, a higher class of talent. So grading him, I see his potential, but right now that's all it is. Because until he catches the ball and they hit him up the seam where he has a full steam, behind him and running down that seam, it can hurdle somebody or bulldoze somebody. We just haven't seen him do it. Everything he caught last year was go out 3 yards, turn around, and they throw him the ball, and then he's supposed to drag a cornerback for an extra yard or two. It was so vanilla. It was not. It was mundane. It was not creative at all. So I think we'll see more in the play action game to hopefully get him working the middle, crossers, with a full steam, behind him. And I think he'll be much more effective. But again, it's all projection. Based solely on as a blocker and what he provided last year, I'd give him a 4. Because I expected that at the very least. Yeah. And he was easily the Steelers' best blocking tight end. And so now we hopefully will see more of the complete package this year. The knee issues, I kept looking back and I'm like, I don't remember him having, knee issues and injuries in college. But what it was is when they did the exams, kind of like they red flagged Fuyatu this year, and he don't even know where they come from. He didn't even wear knee braces in college. But somebody red flagged it. Well, with Darnell Washington being 6'7" and them long legs, they said he had early stages, showed some arthritis. That could show up 5 years. It could show up 10 years, and he's out of the NFL. So I think the Steelers did their due diligence. I think they made a strong pick there. And I think he has a lot of potential. I'm looking forward to him in a legit NFL offense this year, and I'll give him a 4.
Interesting. Yeah, the drop-off, you can see that on the PFF grades. We don't need to deeply go into that, but you do see the drop-off there. I'm giving him a 3, only because I felt the Steelers, I think they took advantage of the fall. I think he's really great in that regard in the blocking. But I'm a big believer in dual threat tight ends. And last year's draft class was the best tight end draft class we have ever seen and may ever see with the guys that were picked mid-rounds. And when you've got someone like Pat Freiermuth, with not just the injuries, but like the, soft tissue kind of stuff, but like when you look at Pat Freiermuth and the concussions, I think the Steelers missed a chance potentially last year to get someone, especially knowing the Matt Canada offense and the lack of creativity there, and the fact you had a rookie quarterback, you needed a playmaker. I know that's hard to grade Darnell with that because that's not his fault, but I need to see, I guess, and also the 3 is because I need to see more out of him in 2024. So I'm going to give him a 3 because I think the pass blocking side you can give him a 4. I think the pass blocking side you can give him 1.5, but I can't. Sorry, not the pass blocking, the receiving ability. You can give him 1.5. But I also need to give him a little bit of a. I need to give him a bit of a upward swing when it comes to, I guess, the fact that he wasn't used properly in a not NFL caliber standard offensive scheme. All right, well, let's pivot to the other side of the ball. Let's pivot to the 4th round draft pick, picked 132nd overall, Nick Herbig. I like this guy. I like Nick Herbig. I'm going to be upfront about that. I'm a big fan of Nick Herbig. Shannon, tell me your thoughts on Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin.
Well, Nick Herbig exceeded my expectations. I wanted him in the 4th, and I didn't. And when they traded the pick, I said, "Well, there goes that idea." And then they got back in the 4th, and it worked out that they was able to get him. But honestly, I evaluated him last year as an off-ball linebacker. I thought he was going to move inside.
That's the same thing, and that's why I was like, "Don't draft him before the 5th round."
Well, he come in, and I'm like, "Well, he doesn't have long arms. He's undersized. His weight, he needed about another 10, 15 pounds to hold up on the edge and set a better edge." And I'm like, I think he's already would be a really good inside linebacker. And they come right out after they drafted him and said, he's going to be an edge. That's what we drafted him to be, an edge. I'm like, well, I love his motor. We'll see. Well, the thing that surprised me is he's stronger than he looks. He's stronger than he's size.
Yeah.
But he has, and I don't know what his 10-yard split was, but he has the best closing speed of any of the Steelers edge guys. His closing speed's better than TJ. It's better than Highsmith. It's better than any of them. He explodes. The last 5 yards when he's attacking the ball carrier or the quarterback, it's incredible how explosive he is.
His 10-yard split is 1.6 flat, which is pretty quick.
That's quick, but I'd have thought it was 1.5 something. I've seen him on the one sack he had last year, and I can't remember which quarterback was rolling to his left, and they was 15 yards.
Seattle game?
It might have been. They was 15 yards, and Herbig started to approach him, and he sacked him. He never did even start forward. He covered him 15 yards in a hiccup. It was incredible. And then he had that Seattle game was late in the year. This was earlier in the year.
Oh, the earlier would have been the Buccaneers then.
But late in the year, he got that big sack and strip that helped win that game in Seattle.
Yeah.
And so you just, as the year went on, you're like, give him more snaps. Give him more snaps. He just
actually, no. You're thinking the LA game. The LA game's when he did the rollout because he had a sack in that game. I think you're thinking the LA one.
Well, you just want to see him get more opportunities. I think he's solidified himself as edge 3, and he's going to be able to come in and give them productive minutes. I'm hoping that he's about 5 pounds heavier, and he focused this offseason on setting that edge a little better. He wasn't horrible, but I think that a little added weight and strength there, muscle, and he'll be able to set the edge even better. But here's another guy that, I have to give him a 4.5. I was even tempted to give him a 5.
Oh, I'm giving him a 5. I'll tell you right now.
I'm giving him a 4.5 because he exceeded expectations, and he proved me wrong that he can play edge, and he might not never move to inside linebacker now.
Well, that's it. But he the Steelers kind of can't now in 2 ways. One, they've acquired players there.
Yeah.
And two, when you look at it, like they didn't try him there last year with all their injuries.
Yeah.
So they've kind of put their stake in the ground on that one. Like, if you're going to stick to Never Blaine Dodson at right guard, you can't then switch Nick Herbig inside. Like, you may as well stay consistent. I give him a 5 from the perspective of that bloke had 3 sacks this year of minimal snaps, and he killed it in that Buccaneers game. I mean, the Bills game, not the Buccaneers game, the Bills game. He absolutely destroyed Josh Allen, destroyed Kyle Allen. I remember there was just image after image of just him taking down an Allen with a different jersey number on there. I give him a 5 because and it probably works in his favor a little bit because of the number of snaps he played. If he played more, there's always the more snaps you played, there's always room to make a bigger mistake. Just as well as there is to be productive. But like, I just think the bloke knows how to come in and put his stamp on a game and make a play, and his motor's high, and he comes in at 100%, and he's got a great attitude. He's he's a Pittsburgh Steeler through and through. He's a tough bloke, grounded bloke. Seems like a really solid guy off the field. Fits in. He's not trying to be out there and talk a big game of I'm going to get in there and ahead of Highsmith because he knows he can't get ahead of what. He's just playing it well. He played 78% of the special team snaps, so he's doing I call, I guess, the dirty work or rolling up the sleeves and doing the tough stuff. I just really can't speak highly enough of Nick Herbig to the point, if he has a very good second year and maybe a very good third year, I mean, when you've talked about big-time trades before in the past for outside linebackers, I don't want to see Highsmith in another colored jersey. I want to see him in the black and gold. But, like, if Herbig blossoms into something, and that's the way they have restructured Highsmith's deal again, but it is friendly at the back end. Maybe Nick Herbig turns out to be, and particularly if you're going to re-sign TJ at the end of his deal for another 2, 3, 4 years to close out his career, you will need a cheaper guy on the other side, because imagine what TJ's next deal is going to be like.
Oh, yeah.
So Nick Herbig could be an absolute diamond not diamond in the rough for them, but he could turn out to be one of the most astute mid-round picks we've seen in a long time. And you know what else I like about it, Shannon? You and I on different shows, how critical I've been of mid-round picks from Kevin Colbert. How solid of a 4th-round pick is Nick Herbig?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about two things that stood out to me is Nick Herbig's, as you mentioned, his motor is nonstop. And I love that. And that passion with the way he plays the game. If you look at this year's class, we see that same type of passion. And it's obvious what Khan and Waddle are doing.
Oh, yeah.
And also, you mentioned Nate maybe talking about Nick, but we got to remember that's the Wisconsin pipeline.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows Wisconsin players better than the Steelers.
TJ, Herbig, Benson, that's it. I mean, and it was interesting. PFF have him lining up at outside, just the last thing I'll say on it, 198 snaps and D-line 201 snaps, but that's where you can get like different packages and all the rest of it. I don't. Yeah. I mean, let's just where he's positioned in a particular.
Well, that they used the year before, there was a good bit of the 3 safety look.
Correct.
Last year, they did some 3 edge look.
They did. And I loved it.
And you had Highsmith rotate inside, TJ rotated inside, and Herbig. And see, people don't realize that TJ played a little inside in college, and Highsmith played a good bit of inside.
Well, I was about to say Highsmith played a good bit, but his coverage was a bit. That was but it's also a really easy way to do a disguise look as well, like with the 3. And the other thing that I think they didn't do it last year enough, but there was when they picked Liao, I thought the Steelers were going to consider playing. They don't want to move to a 4-3 because that would be a 5-year overhaul of the whole defensive.
But give some looks that look
like give some more looks there. And I talked a lot about that toward the end of my time with Steel Curtain Network. And I just felt they were getting certain players, and that's where Herbig and Highsmith particularly would be really advantageous, as would TJ, because you can basically switch. You could the headaches for the opposing offensive coordinator in lining that up would be incredible. But they didn't really end up doing any of that. But I do think Herbig offers a lot of versatility there. I think Herbig is underutilized in sub-package. And I think that's where he could really make a name for himself, as you say, where they do that was a really good point you brought up there on the 3 edge guys and where they can move back as well. I wondered last year if they did a little bit with the problems that they had at inside linebacker toward the mid and the end of the season.
Some was necessity, yes.
But we've seen something now that could be used in the future, and that's the cool thing as well. Is like how we could use that. Well, that's going to wrap up our mid-round pick show. We do have another one coming for you on the 2 7th-round draft picks in Corey Trice and Spencer Anderson, who actually probably those two might be the most exciting to watch in 2024 because of what we've seen. But I'll keep that for that show. I'm Matty P with Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.